Hello everybody, welcome back to Betting Expert. My name is Adam and today I'm looking at some bets and predictions for this weekend's UFC Fight Night, Woodley vs Burns. Let's get straight into it. Two betting tips for you today. Number one is a two-leg parlay with Mackenzie Dern by submission and Daniel Rodriguez as a straight pick. Okay, so why is Mackenzie Dern a good pick going with her by submission? Well, she is a extremely talented jiu-jitsu practitioner, and she has been praised by a lot of big fighters to be the next Ronda Rousey in that field of fighting. So she is super talented on the ground. She also has a big size advantage over Hannah Cyphers, 3 inches or something, and a couple inches reach advantage as well. So she does have a good chance of getting this fight to the floor where she can finish the fight really quickly. And what about Rodriguez? Well, 3 main reasons why I think he has a really good chance in his fight against Gabriel Green. Number 1, Gabriel Green is taking this fight on super short notice. Rodriguez's original opponent, Kevin Holland, he was forced out of the fight because of an injury. So Green stepped in on a few days' notice, which is super short when you're facing a prospect in the UFC. Green will be making his debut, so he hasn't fought in the UFC before. He doesn't know what it's like. That's a big advantage for Rodriguez also. And Rodriguez just has the striking, and he can nullify the grappling advantage that Gabriel might have, because Rodriguez actually trains at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. So Dern by submission and Rodriguez is a straight pick for a 2-leg parlay. That's my first betting tip. Betting tip number 2, I have Klidson beating Hill in his fight. I just see more advantages on his side. His odds should be around 2 if you're quick to bet it. And let me go through some advantages I see on his side. So number 1, he has the grappling advantage over Hill. Number 2, Hill was taken down about 6 times against a lesser grappler in his last fight, so he's not that hard to get on the ground. He did manage to get up a few of those times, but with Klidson's superior credentials on the ground, I see him being able to control the fight there. Maybe getting a quick submission. And we don't really know much about Hill yet, because he's only 7-0 in his pro career. So we can kind of give Klidson the benefit of the doubt. I think picking him as a 2.0 underdog is a really valued bet, and that's my second betting tip. Right guys, those were my betting tips. We still have the rest of the card, so as always, I'm gonna go through some quick fire predictions. So number 1, we have Woodley versus Burns. I covered this matchup in another video. You can go and check that out if you want to. I just see all the advantages on the Woodley side. Striking, grappling, he can finish the fight and he can win a decision as well. Whereas I don't see that many advantages on Burns' side. So I'm gonna side with Woodley on that one. I don't know if there's that much value left on him as a straight pick. Maybe I'd go with him to win inside the distance at this point. I think his odds dropped a bit. So next fight is Ivanov against Sakai. I see more advantages on the Sakai side. Should be a pick-em fight, I think. Sakai's got the reach and the size advantage, and he's undefeated in the UFC. He's got some more momentum, and even though Blagoy has the Sambo grappling background, he has difficulty using it in his fights. We saw him having a hard time keeping Derek Lewis down in their fight, and Lewis is not the best wrestler on the roster. So I would go with Sakai to get it done, perhaps with a decision. Yeah. So let me see what else we got. We have Spike Carlisle against Billy Quarantillo. Again, I think this is a really good matchup, but I think Spike has the grappling advantage. I think the grappling advantage is generally a bit underrated in the MMA community. I think he has the ability to take it to the ground and finish it early, whereas Quarantillo kind of has to toughen out a close decision. I don't see him getting the finish, but he is super tough, and he did have a good debut in the UFC, but it was against a lesser opponent. So I would say Carlisle's, also because he's the underdog, which I think this is a pick and fight. So yeah, I'll go with the underdog. We also have Roosevelt Roberts against Brock Weaver. I give Roberts reach and height and overall skill. I think he's the more pure technical striker compared to Weaver. I think that gives him the edge in this fight. I will say, however, that if Weaver's odds go over or near 4.0, I will think that the value will actually be on his side. But right now, I think Roosevelt has all the advantages, so I'll stick with him. Next up is Antonina Shevchenko against Caitlin Chookagian. I think it's a big factor that Antonina has been in her sister's corner when Valentina fought Chookagian, and she has trained Valentina for that fight. I think those are big factors. I also think Chookagian is a bit one-sided, more of a point fighter. She is really good. She's a really good point fighter, but I think Shevchenko's Muay Thai and clinch work and maybe even ground game will be too much for Chookagian. I see her getting the decision win here. Before I leave you guys, I want to focus on 3 bets that could become valuable if the odds change a bit. I would say that if the odds for Brock Weaver as a straight pick rise even more, if he becomes about 4.0 underdog, I would say that he's definitely a valued bet. Also, Antonina Shevchenko, her odds of finish against Caitlin is about 8.0. I think that's too high, actually. Valentina, her sister, got the finish, and Valentina and Antonina have been training together, and they also trained together for the Chookagian fight with Valentina, so I think that's a big factor, actually. I could also see Woodley getting the knockout actually in his fight against Burns. He's looking to make a statement, and I think he can expose Burns on the feet actually. And Burns has been knocked out at 155 before, so at 170 where the guys are bigger and they hit a bit harder, maybe Woodley can find his opening and get the knockout. Alright guys, those were just 3 extra betting considerations for you guys. That's all for me, signing out here at Betting Expert. Please remember, always gamble responsibly.